What if I told you that one of the strangest, boldest, and most ambitious supercars of the early 1950s didn't come from the usual automotive powerhouses, Italy, Germany, or even America, but from post-war Spain? And what if I told you it looked less like a conventional sports car and more like something sketched by a retro-futuristic sculptor with a wild imagination? Welcome back to the channel, where we dig into the machines that turned the automotive world upside down long before social media existed to witness the chaos. Today's feature is a car that feels like an alternate timeline experiment. Part engineering flex, part political statement, and part what were they thinking moment. This is the story of the 1952 Pegaso Z-102 Cúpula, a Spanish-built V8 rocket that attempted to dethrone the giants of Europe. To understand how this fever dream of metal and ambition came to life, we need to rewind to the early 1950s. Spain, recovering from isolation and economic strain, was not exactly known for building high-performance machinery. Most countries were focused on rebuilding infrastructure. Spain, meanwhile, had a state-owned truck and bus manufacturer named Enesa, born from the remains of Hispano-Suiza, and decided, what if we shock the world by building the fastest production car money can buy? Enter Wilfredo Ricart. A brilliant, stubborn, and deeply competitive engineer, Ricart had spent years locking horns with the best minds in Italy, including at Alfa Romeo, so much so that Enzo Ferrari famously disliked him. When Ricart returned to Spain, he brought a treasure chest of engineering ideas and an almost theatrical vision for what a Spanish performance car should be. And he wasn't joking. Ricart designed a spectacular 2.5-liter V8 with hemispherical combustion chambers, dual overhead cams, and a bewilderingly complex layout that looked more suited to a raceboat or aircraft than a road car. In later variants, this engine pushed beyond 360 horsepower, a ridiculous figure for the era. Spain didn't just want to compete, it wanted to shoot past the competition and wave as it went by. The chassis was just as extreme. Independent suspension, torsion bars, a short wheelbase, and engineering cues borrowed from motorsport gave the Z-102 handling characteristics that could be described as exhilarating or terrifying depending on your pulse rate. Some models even experimented with rear steer behavior, something that would make most modern drivers pray a little harder before cornering. But the most controversial and unforgettable variant of all was the Cupula, also known as the Cupula. While many Pegaso bodies were crafted by legendary coach builders like Touring or Sauchik, the Cupula was designed in Spain by a team of young designers who seemed determined to leap decades into the future. The result was a bulbous dome-like rear canopy, exaggerated curves, and proportions that looked like someone tried predicting the shape of cars in the year 2000 while living in 1952. It was bold, it was bizarre, and somehow it worked. Only 2 Cupulas were ever built. The most famous was sold to Dominican dictator Rafael Trujillo, who wanted a statement piece powerful enough to outshine the luxury imports of his political rivals. That same car entered the brutal 1954 Carrera Panamericana, an event so dangerous it was eventually banned. The Cupula survived the race and then disappeared for decades, tucked away from the public eye until collectors rediscovered and restored it in the 2000s. Under its bubble-backed body sat the early 2.5-liter V8 producing around 165 horsepower in naturally aspirated form. But with a supercharger, this Spanish creation could touch 152 miles per hour, 245 kilometers per hour, fast enough to briefly hold the title of the world's fastest touring car, until the Jaguar XK120 eventually pushed ahead. Still, the fact that Spain, a nation with more donkeys than sports cars at the time, was competing in that league remains one of the strangest and most impressive automotive achievements of the century. Across all variants, only 87 Pegaso Z-102s were built, and of the 2 Cupulas, only one survives today. It sits in the Luhrmann Museum, restored to perfection. A one-off fusion of bizarre styling, political intrigue, race history, and uncompromised engineering ambition. It isn't just rare, it's practically mythological. Cars like the Pegaso Cúpula remind us of something important. The automotive world was once driven not only by commercial logic, but by national pride, daring engineers, and people willing to build something simply because it seemed impossible. If you enjoy stories like this, machines with personality, history, and a little bit of madness behind them, make sure to subscribe. And if today's journey made you smile, be sure to drop a comment. See you in the next video.